markets. It's a effective use of scarce building land. Lower cost for lot development, less layout for construction per unit, and it's savings in maintenance and heating bills. So a condominium, how is a condominium lower cost for lot development? Does anybody have an idea? Why would condominiums be a lower cost for lot development?
More in-line building.
Well, not only up, but for example, Lex, Sutu lives over at Spring Grove, right? She lives in a condo. They're ranches, patio homes. Some of them have a bedroom and a second floor, but they're quads. They're 4. So that's less space, because remember I said in Ross Draper Township, on the street we live in is a regular subdivision. You have to have, each house only could be on a quarter acre lot. But for a condominium, there's an exception where they can have, in that case, 4 units all right together. And so it's an effective use for scarce land. Plus, like Ellen said, you could go up. You can go up. And there's a savings in maintenance and heating bills. Because if this is my mom's unit, she owns this side, right? Dawn owns this side. Well, if it was a regular house, your outside wall, what's on the other side of it? The outside, it's freezing, right? So it costs more to heat this unit because this wall is on the outside. But in a condo, this wall, now not every wall in a condo, but the party walls are back to back with another unit. So Dawn got heat on this side, my mom got heat on this side. So this wall, this area is less expensive to heat. Does that make sense? Speaking of that, it's supposed to be real cold Thursday too. Did you guys catch that? That it's going to be like crazy, crazy cold. So expect a delay, and I'll try to get a text message out to everybody, but the text message may not come out till 7:30, 8 o'clock. So we'll play that by ear. We'll just see how cold it's going to be. Yin's preferred having a delay for an hour at least if it's real cold and there's school delays. Was it screw anybody up today? Because Ross Draver did have a 2-hour delay, but I didn't delay the class. Did it screw anybody up? Vonnie, it screwed up. Well, you're okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Condominium ownership is not a style of a building. So, Lauren, a lot of times people think that a condominium is a style of building. It's not. It's a form of ownership. So a condominium could be a single family home with a yard. It could be a high-rise building with different units in it. It could be quads. Remember that a condominium, Samantha, is a form of ownership, not a style of building. And you can also have fee sample ownership of the layers of airspace. So if we look at page 99, see that unit right number 4? Now, if we're going to survey and do a legal description, Seneca, on unit 4, what type of marking on the ground would a surveyor start from? Remember, I called Chuck and I asked Chuck about that piece that was on West Newton Bridge. What do you call that? Can't remember. If you can't remember, always guess C. Benchmark, and typically a benchmark is used to measure data, right? Data. So that's how they survey that spot up on the 4th floor here. They'll find a benchmark that has a datum recorded. Chuck knew exactly how many feet above sea level that mark was on West Newton Bridge, didn't he? He knew it right off the hand. And then they would use that to go up to measure the elevation of that 4th unit. That's how they do that. That's how they do that. Are you guys confused with that? Do we need to go back and look at that? No? Garrett, you said you got it. Okay, I'm okay with that.
What's that have to do with right now, though?
What's that?
What's that have to do with right now?
Because we're talking about how they create a legal description for a condominium. So see the figure 6.6? See that number 4 unit? How would we create a legal description if you were a surveyor for that? You'd have to find a benchmark somewhere that had the datum. That datum's that's marking the elevation for that spot, and then from there go up to be able to put in a legal description so that anybody could specify, any competent surveyor could specify that. Condominium ownership specified shared and undivided interest in common areas. So look at the drawing there. The elevator is a common area. Okay, so there's 5 units in this building, right? Right? So since there's 5 units in this building, each one of those unit owners would have a 1/5 interest in the common areas. The common areas could be the elevator. The common areas could be the lobby. The common areas could be the outside grounds. And usually they pay a condo maintenance fee or an association fee to help that pays for the cost of those common areas. So my mom lives over at Spring Grove. She owns the condo and everything from the 4 walls in her unit. She owns that. Okay. But everything on the outside, unless it's another unit, the driveways, common area. The grass, all the grass area, common areas. The pond where the geese is, squirrel, common areas. So over at Spring Grove, maybe there's 80 units. So each one of those unit owners own a 1/80th interest in the common areas. Can they sell that interest? No. But then the condominium, people that live in a condo, they would have a board of directors, and whatever it costs to cut the grass, maintain the roads, maintain the driveway, maintain the shrubs, in this case, maintain the elevator, they would, whatever that cost is to maintain everything, they divide that by how many unit owners there are, and that's their association fee per month. Condominiums could be residential, they could be commercial, or they can be industrial. Okay, and then here's the drawing that is in the book here. We talked about the common elements, the land, the courtyards, the hallways, the lobbies, the elevators, the pool. Some have golf courses, tennis courts. They're owned, those areas are owned in a form of tenants in common. No right to partition, can't sell them off. But that's what form they would be in. Residential condominium architecture could be high rises, townhouses, patio homes, garden apartments, even single family detached homes. So I sold a house one time in Canonsburg. Single family house. If you rode into the neighborhood, it just looks like a regular neighborhood. There's houses, they have yards, but they were condos. So that means that the people owned the house, but their yards were all common area. Their yards were all common area. So if I wanted to walk from this yard and go through my neighbor's yard, the neighbor, Samantha, can't say, get the hell out of my yard. I can say, Samantha, it's common area. Stop. Okay. But if it was a single family home in a residential plan where you owned your land and she owned her land, could she stop me from going on her land?
Yes.
Yes. But in a common area, in condos, you can use all the common area, unless there's a sign that says do not use it. You know. Recognize if a property is a townhouse has separately owned lots. Okay, so I don't see a picture in the book. Ain't this what townhouses kind of look like? Sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, right? You know, if I put a little roof on it, put a front door in each one, that looks like a townhouse, right? Right? Could be a condo. What makes the difference? What's the difference? How do I know if this is a condo or if it's a townhouse? Well, yeah, you do. There's a difference. What makes it the difference? Okay? If it would be a condo, this yard back here, all these yards would all be what?
Separate.
Would be what?
Separate.
No, common area. So here's a driveway going up. Here's a driveway going up. If it's a condominium, even the driveways going up on the outside are common areas. Okay? The yard in the back. Now they may have a little picnic, they may have a little patio back here, but this is common area back here. If it's a townhouse, there's a party wall, right, in either. But the townhouse, the guy owns the land in front and the back.
So really, the only way you can tell is if there's a party wall.
No, because both of these have a party wall, condo and townhouse. The only way you can tell is look at the deed and see what the deed says. That's the right way to do it.
I thought you were
That's a trick
saying,
question.
yeah, like, how can you physically tell?
You can't tell the difference.
Right.
Because remember what we said,
Yeah.
a condominium ownership is not a style. It's a type of ownership. So if they were townhouses, they would look the same. The only difference would be you would actually own the land. So if the driveway here, if it was a townhouse, had a pothole in it, who's responsible if it's a townhouse to fix it? You are. If it's a condominium and there's a pothole, who's responsible to fix it? The association. See, it's not a style, it's just a type of ownership is the difference. Okay? Condominium ownership. The deed conveys fee simple ownership of the living unit, and you have a 1/20th interest in the common areas. Okay? Title is held by one or more in severity, by the entirety, or joint tenants. So, or as tenants in common. So if you want to buy a condo, you can buy that condo in severity, one person. Jace, you could buy a condo just for yourself, by yourself, right? Or Tammy and Sheila, you could buy that condo as tenants in common, right? Or Lexi, you and Vonnie can buy that as joint tenants. You can take title in either one of those three ways. I don't know. Tammy and Sheila got that condo. It's down in Florida. They want to do it as tenants in common because if something happens to Tammy, she wants to make sure her daughter, is that your daughter, gets her interest in that. Where if Lexi and Vonnie own the same condo as joint tenants with joint tenants, if something happens to Vaughn, Lex would get her interest. So can you see why the type of ownership would be important? It can have future ramifications on what happens with that property when he passes away. Each unit is a financial entity. My mother's condo, we have a mortgage on it. Okay? And we get a tax bill for that particular unit. So we have you can mortgage it, you get a tax bill on that particular unit. Now, the common area is assessed differently, and if there's 80 units in there, they would take the taxes for all the common area and divide it up, and she'd be responsible for 1/80th of those taxes when she pays her monthly maintenance fee. But the tax bill that she gets is just for her unit only. Okay? You can foreclose. If these are condos, okay, can foreclose on this unit, doesn't affect this unit. Condo operation and administration. So in Spring Grove condominiums, they have bylaws. They're created, and they create an association of the unit owners to manage the condominiums, to maintain it, maintain the common areas, to repair, to clean the common areas, and to enforce the bylaws and the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. They have to maintain fire insurance on your individual unit. Now remember, I said my father-in-law had a dog, and the bylaws said the dog couldn't be more than 80 pounds. And he had a dog that was more than 80 pounds, so that was a violation. So they sent him a summons that you're in violation of the bylaws because your dog is over 80 pounds. And he argued it and trimmed the dog and said, nah, that dog just looked 80 pounds because it's a big furry dog, you know? And it's governed by a board of directors, which are elected. So in Spring Grove condominiums, there's a president. Sam used to be the president of the condominiums. He's the president. Then there's a secretary. Then there's a treasurer. And then there's board members. And they dictate how things are going to be ran. And they're elected. So Sam, nobody liked Sam. So after a couple of years, Sam was voted out. And now there's a new president. I'm not sure who it is. Okay, they manage the finances. The board of directors, they hire the landscaper to cut the grass. They purchase a house.
You're not responsible for all those things outside.
Yeah, you're not responsible for the outside. So we don't have to worry about getting somebody to cut the grass at my mom's or shoveling the walks. What's that?
Time freedom.
Yeah. I mean, she don't have to do none of that. The bushes out front, she don't have to cut them. They have somebody that comes and cuts all the bushes for all the units in the place. So for somebody like my mother who's 86, that was the phone call I had to take. I very rarely take phone calls. But when my mom calls, she's 86, I take it. You know what she said? Tommy, I want to let you know I'm going to smoke a cigarette and take a nap. That was the conversation. I smoke a cigarette and take a nap. She lets me know that. Now, can I tell my mom, don't call me? I'm teaching? No, I can't. So sometimes, but I never know in case, she falls or something. Got to take a call. But it's really nice for my mom. She ain't got to do nothing there. Just got to take care of the inside of the unit. So condo ownership, a condominium is a form of ownership. You know that now, Christine, right? You didn't know that before today, did you?
No.
You thought it was a style building, didn't you?
Right.
So you may be driving down the road. You may have a friend of yours in a car, and they're going to say, oh, those look like condos. And what are you going to say right away? Oh, why would you say that? Because condominiums is just a form of owning those buildings. They could be owned fee simple. They could be townhouses, right? So, I don't know. I know. Hey, it's better than the last chapter, ain't it? That last chapter was tough for me. I had to go take care of some business. I called the office. I told Cindy, Jesus Christ, I'm dying here, Jen. I'm dying. So with condominium fees, my mother pays a fee. It used to be $350. I think it just went up to $375. Bless you. The unit owners are responsible for a common area. The association collects the funds for the maintenance. Fees are collected either monthly, quarterly, or annually. Unpaid fees become a lien. My father-in-law, that son of a bitch, sold him that unit. He lived there about 4 years. He sold it for some I own. Didn't hire me to sell it. Thought he was getting over. He owed about 3 months back fees. Thought he was getting over. But when they do a title search on a condominium, they send a letter to the association to make sure they don't owe no fees. So at closing, when he looked at his statement, he says, "What's this?" They said, "Those are the fees you didn't pay." They're lienable. So the maintenance fee on condominiums is lienable. You'll remember that because of the story, hopefully, if it comes up in a test. Condominium assessments. They can have a special assessment. So at Spring Grove, they're collecting like $350, now it's $375 maybe a month for the association fees. But really, that's not enough if they would need to put new roofs on the units. Okay? They don't have enough money in the kitty. So they can charge a special assessment for major repairs, capital improvements, new roofs, if they want to put a pool in. Larger units pay a bigger part of the monthly fee. Now, there was a lawsuit over there, okay? Over at Spring Grove, each quad, there's quads, has 2 3-bedrooms and 2 2-bedrooms in it. The 2 bedrooms don't have the 3rd bedroom upstairs. The 3 bedrooms do, so they're bigger. So, but the maintenance fee is equal on all the units. So one of these guys has a 2-bedroom over there, and he sued the association. And why did he sue? Because he said, "I have a smaller unit and I'm paying the same monthly fee as the guys with the larger units." And it went to court. I don't know how they resolved it. I don't think they changed it, but the judge could have ruled in that favor and changed it. That the bigger the unit, the more their share of the common areas would be. How do you create a condominium in Pennsylvania? There's a Uniform Condominium Act. That's a federal law. Owners must execute and record a declaration of condominium. And it's a legal description of all the units and common areas, all the bylaws, a survey, drawings, legal descriptions for each unit, restricted covenants controlling the ownership, and that's all recorded in the courthouse. It's all recorded in the courthouse. Now there's a Uniform Condominium Act. Changes were made in 2005. Affecting the governance of the board of directors, the management of operation, the collection of fees. You don't need to know any of that probably. But the buyer needs to be aware of the homeowners association and the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So in Pennsylvania, I'm going to skip that. Buyers have so many days. Oh, there it is, right there. So in Pennsylvania, you must receive the public offering statement within 15 days before a buyer buys a condo. And the public offering, Jace, has a budget. So if you were going to buy into a condominium, wouldn't you want to know if there's enough money in their budget saved to put roofs on or not? Wouldn't you? Yeah. Right? Wouldn't you want to know what the rules are, if you could have an 80-pound dog or not? So in Pennsylvania, the buyer has 15 days to review that after receiving it. And if he's not happy with them in any reason, he can get out of the deal, get his money back. Condo conversions. This is very popular in the big cities where they have these big apartment buildings, okay? And the guy says in New York City, "Man, I'm tired of chasing those tenants for their rent. Why don't we just take this building and convert it into condominiums?" Now, once we sell them out, we're out of the picture. Everybody will own their own unit, even if it's an apartment building, and they'll all have an interest in the common areas. They'll have to form a board of directors and president, secretary, which will run all that, and we can be out of the picture and still make a ton of money. So new owners must get a 2-year warranty on a condo conversion. Know that. How much warranty on a condo condo conversion, Lex.
I'm sorry. I don't think
It's okay.
I'm half stupid.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. So if it's an apartment building that they're converting into condos and it's a conversion, they have to give the new owners a 2-year warranty. They must receive a report from an independent architect or engineering detailing the age and condition of the property. Sale certificate and the condo docs. And that's where you have that 15 days to look over the resale certificate. Usually it's an independent company that manages it. So at Spring Grove, there's a company, I can't remember the name, that you send the checks to every month. And when somebody's going to buy one of those units, the owner has to go online and get a resale certificate. And then that resale certificate has all the information about how much is in the budget, how much is extra, are there roof allowances, all the rules and regulations. And then that prospective buyers can avoid the AOS within 5 days after receiving the certificate. So what the hell do they mean by AOS? What's that definition for? Anybody know? What's the 5 days have to do with? Let's dig into the book. Because we know 15 days, at least 15 days before a sales contract is signed, the prospective purchaser in a new condominium or condominium conversion must be given the public offering. What's the 5 days? Any help here with that, guys?
Agreement of sale.
What's that?
Agreement of sale.
Okay, agreement of sale. Buyer can void the agreement of sale within 5 days after receiving the certificate. And what they're saying is the public offering statement must be given 15 days before signing. But most of the time it's not. So what would I remember there? That's a little bit tricky. So on existing condominiums, they have 5 days from the time they receive the resale certificate where they could void the agreement. So the resale certificate is a little bit different than the public offering statement, which is the rules and regs and everything with the condos. So you can't have a dog with more than 80 pounds. So we talked about condos. Christine, you're tired of hearing about it, huh?
No, I'm just.
I don't know about you. I'm tired of talking about it. Huh? Zaria said I was a very good instructor outside. I asked her, I said, how am I doing, Zaria? I'm struggling. He said, you're doing okay. So let's talk about co-ops. Anybody ever hear of co-ops versus condos? Seneca? Did you? So a co-op doesn't have anything to do with the style of building. What do you think it has something to do with, Lex?
Ownership or something.
Oh, yeah, form of ownership. Okay. Title is held by a corporation. The deed for the building. Okay. A corporation offers shares of stock for the sale, pieces of paper, granting access to the building. So if you were going to buy a condo, Seneca, you would get a deed for your unit, right? You own that fee simple, correct? And you can take ownership in 3 different ways. These guys back here took it as, I'll just take ownership. Joint tenancy, right? These guys, you can take ownership as, how? What was it called?
We're tenants in common.
Tenants in common. I can't remember how you guys took it.
Where is it?
They were what?
Lexi knows more.
What are they? What
Joint
are you?
tenants, there's joint tenants with the something.
Right of survivorship.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in a co-op, you don't get a title or a deed.
Honestly, I'm gonna remember by that. If you
Okay,
didn't make that
good.
up, I have nothing, it would've just went in one ear and out the other.
Okay, but remember the important thing about joint tenants is what? There are four things, P-I-T-T. Luke's a Penn State fan, right?
Yep.
He don't like Pitt, right? The key thing with joint tenants is that they have to have possession all at the same time, P. They all have to have the same interest, undivided interest. They all have to take it as the same title, the same document, and the other T is they have to do it at the same time. So with a co-op, you don't get a deed. You don't get a title, okay? You get a share of stock. That's what you get. One share of stock, giving you permission, Tam, to live in that unit, okay? And it is considered personal property. On a condominium, no matter which way you guys take ownership, it's considered real property, right? But with a co-op, it's considered personal property. It's considered a personal property. So, co-op operation and management is determined by corporate bylaws. The shareholders control the property and its operation. And again, they have a board of director of all the shareholders. Because remember, you get a share, Jace, of stock, right? When they sell, they may be required to sell back to the organization their unit for the price they paid. And then the corporation would benefit of the profits. So if you had a co-op, Lauren, and you lived in this co-op for 5 years, and you decided you were moving, you wanted to sell, you'd have to sell it back to the corporation. So you don't sell with the co-op to an individual. You sell it back to the corporation, the co-op. And then if you wanted to buy Ellen, you would have to buy from the organization. You couldn't buy from Lauren. You'd have to buy from the organization. And you're not even buying really, because all you're getting is a share of stock that you'd have to pay for it. Now, let me see if I have anything else on this. The tenants are responsible. You can get a mortgage for a co-op, okay? They have to make a payment for maintenance and repair of the common areas. They probably have to have an insurance policy. Not only for the common areas, if for the common areas, it would be collected through the monthly fees, almost like a condo. But the difference with a co-op, my mom, when we bought that condo at Spring Grove, she was looking to move. She lived down in Denbo on the river. It was a half hour. My father passed away. She had 8 acres of property. It was just a whole lot of work. My wife convinced her to cooling. They got big billboards with the father and the son on it. Somebody said, Jed's mother lives over here. Why don't you give them a call and see if they want to sell? I called Jed, and he said, yeah, we want to sell. And I struck a deal with him. I didn't have to get permission from anybody. In a co-op, if Ellen wants to buy a unit in that co-op, they have to agree on the person she's selling it to. As long as they're not discriminating because of the protected classes, they can discriminate because of the person. So what situation would a co-op say they didn't want somebody to buy a unit? Okay, my wife says that Mariah Carey she would give me a hall pass if I could be with Mariah Carey for, really I don't even like her that much, but I like some of her songs. But I'm not a real big song guy. But she always says that, only because she gets a hall pass for John Mellencamp. And that's not even because I want to give it to her, it's because she just take it. Okay? So Mariah Carey wanted to get into this unit in New York City. It was a co-op. And the co-op organization turned her down. And the reason they turned Mariah down was they said, hey, right now we could come in and out. It's not a problem. Jesus Christ, and if we have Mariah Carey living in this unit, every time she comes here, there's going to be paparazzis outside. There's always going to be a whole bunch of fuss. And they turned her down from buying one of those units, getting a share of stock to live in there, I should say. Okay? But with a condominium, nobody else, the association can't determine who moves in. With a condominium, when we go to sell my mom's condo, I don't have to sell it back to the condo association for the price I paid. I could sell it to Ray at fair market value. With a co-op, you have to sell it back to the association for the price you pay. Okay. Then there's timeshares. We're not going to get into a lot, but it's a fee simple interest in a timeshare. It's the right to use a timeshare as personal property. But your interest in it would be real property. The purchaser receives the right to occupy a certain unit for a specific time each year. 1 week being the most common. Okay, so what else does it say? Anything else about timeshares real quick in here? I doubt if you're going to see a lot on that on the test, but you may.
Pennsylvania, you have to have a special license
To sell it. Okay. Then there's campground memberships. They're similar to timeshare use. Used often, limited by weather and access. So there used to be a campground up by Seven Springs. Anybody know the name of that one out there? And what is it? Yeah, and my mom and dad used to have a camper in one of those. And they had a campground membership where they paid for the membership, paid a fee up front, and then they paid a yearly maintenance fee, and they had their camper there, and they could go up anytime they want to the campground, but it was from spring till fall. Now, a timeshare, can you go up anytime you want, Jace? No. It's usually broken down to a week at a time. So that's the difference between a campground membership and a timeshare. A campground membership, you don't typically get a deed. Okay? Any questions on that unit? Thank you, Jesus. Unit 6. Okay, but let's go back to the key points on Unit 103. So we're gonna look at Unit, Andrea, Unit 7, real estate taxes and liens. So if you want to get us ready. So let's look at these key points here for a second.